Several years ago, a good friend of mine said something to me that I have never forgotten. She said, never pray for patience, because if you do, God will give you something to test your patience. Little did I know I should have listened. Because here's the thing, I was never a patient person to begin with. And now I've ended up in a season of life where patience is required of me every day, which is probably why I changed the name of my channel to the Impatient Caregiver. Because if I'm going to talk about caregiving, I'm going to be 100% honest. I'm a caregiver. I love my husband, but I'm also an impatient person trying to learn patience. Now, there's something I've been thinking about lately that I really want to talk about. You can love your husband immensely and still lose your patience with them. Now, I know that seems obvious, but when you're a caregiver, I don't think it always feels obvious. Because when you get irritated or frustrated or you just can't take one more question, the guilt can come almost immediately. And then you start to think, why am I getting so irritated? He can't help it. He didn't choose this. If I really loved him, wouldn't I be more patient? And that's where I think that we caregivers can be incredibly hard on ourselves. My husband has Lewy body dementia along with Parkinsonism. There are things he does now that he never did before. Things he can't control. Things I understand intellectually aren't his fault. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Knowing that doesn't mean I never get frustrated. And maybe you've experienced that too. You can understand the reason behind someone's behavior, yet still be annoyed with the behavior. Both things can be true. Let me give you an example. My husband loves to be on his iPad and his phone, and he sometimes hits buttons that he shouldn't be hitting or understand what he's hitting. And so he will come to me and ask me to help him fix it. And the other night I was just exhausted. It was late. He was still awake watching a baseball game. And I was just sitting in the bedroom relaxing. And he came in and asked me if I would fix whatever was wrong with his phone. So I got frustrated. And I'm like, what did you hit now? I might have huffed and puffed a little bit and took it, and I got on there and I fixed what needed to be fixed and gave it back to him. And he walked out of the room saying, usually you don't get mad. Usually you tell me you're happy to help me. I just felt awful after that. I truly felt awful. And he's right. Normally, I do try and help him with whatever the problem is. I try to be patient, but I still lose it. And sometimes he doesn't know that I've lost my patience. I hide it pretty well. But other times, like in this case, he picked up on it because it was very obvious. I just felt so guilty after that. Because I knew he wasn't doing it to aggravate me. He truly needed my help. And it wasn't a big deal what he needed. I was just tired. And that is when I started asking myself, does being impatient mean I'm a bad wife? What does it mean when I get frustrated with someone I love who can't help it? Why do I feel guilty for having a perfectly human reaction? Why do I think I have to feel patient every single minute of the day? And maybe most importantly, why do I expect to handle this perfectly when this is something I never imagined I'd have to handle at all? And here's what I'm learning. I can love my husband and be frustrated. I can understand that he can't help what's happening to him and still need a break. I can be grateful that he's here and still be exhausted from caregiving. I can be compassionate and sometimes run out of patience. Those things, they don't cancel each other out. And that's what we have to realize. I think that's something that we have to give ourselves permission to admit. By no means are we perfect. But here's the part I really want you to hear. I don't think the impatience is the biggest problem. I think it's what we tell ourselves after the impatience that's the problem. If I lose my patience and I say, I'm a terrible, terrible wife, I shouldn't feel this way, well, now I've added guilt on top of that frustration. And that is an awful heavy load to carry. Maybe patience isn't about never getting frustrated. Maybe patience is what happens after you've gotten frustrated. Maybe it's recognizing it, taking a breath, walking away for 5 minutes if you can, asking for help, praying, starting over, and trying again. Because maybe the goal isn't to become a naturally patient person. Maybe the goal is to learn what to do when you aren't one. And believe me, I'm still learning. So if you're watching this and you had a day where you lost your patience with your spouse, and then you felt horrible with yourself afterward, I want you to know you're not alone. You're not a bad wife because you're frustrated. You're not a bad caregiver because you're tired. And you don't love your spouse any less because sometimes you need 5 minutes away from everything. We're human and we're doing something incredibly difficult. And some days we're going to handle it beautifully and some days we're going to mess it up. And then we get up the next day and try again. That's what I'm doing. And maybe I'm not here because I figured out patience. Maybe I'm here because I'm still learning it. And maybe you are too. I'll see you in the next video. And until then, stand still and know that He is God. Even now, especially now.